They say some places never forget. That some soil drinks blood too eagerly. That water, though it looks peaceful, sometimes stares back. I used to think that was just folklore. Old men in diners trying to spook the next generation. But then I went fishing. And now I know better. That evening, I was looking for quiet. Not peace, I'd stopped hoping for that long ago. Just the quiet. My therapist said nature was good for anxiety. Find a place that makes you feel grounded, she said. Reconnect with yourself. I didn't tell her that the only place I'd ever felt disconnected from pain was beside a lake. Not the one people knew. Not the family spots with boat rentals and beer coolers. No. This place was different. Locals called it Devil's Kettle. No signs. No cell service. It was barely a rumor whispered between folks at gas stations. A cratered lake, warped like something had punched the earth from underneath. Trees leaned inward like they were eavesdropping. I had been there before. Years ago. Once. It had ended badly. But I thought maybe after all this time I could take something back. The drive out was uneventful. Until the road ended. The final mile was barely a trail. My tires crunched over broken twigs and dried leaves. A crow flew overhead, letting out a caw that sounded too close, as if it was following me. I parked beneath a twisted cedar. The bark looked scorched, like it had survived a fire no one remembered. The lake was still. Too still. The kind of stillness that makes you whisper without knowing why. I stepped out, grabbed my rod, my box. The water gleamed silver, but the surface never moved. No fish jumped. No insects buzzed. Even the frogs stayed silent. I should have left right then. But I didn't. I made my way down to a spot where the bank dipped low. An old wooden dock jutted out about 20 feet. Weathered. Warped. Nails rusted and bent like twisted teeth. I stepped onto it. Each creak of wood sounded like a cry in the silence. I cast my line. Waited. Time passed. How much, I don't know. The sun dipped behind a jagged tree line. That's when I saw them. Eyes. Below the dock. Reflections. Maybe. But they didn't shimmer like light. They were too fixed. Too deep. And they blinked. I jerked my head down to look, but nothing. Just water. A ripple, maybe. A shadow. But not a fish. My breath quickened. I scanned the tree line. Still no one. But the silence, it was heavier now. Like the world was holding its breath. Then came the sound. A crunch. Gravel. Behind me. Someone else had arrived. It was an old, matte black pickup. No lights. No plates. It crept into the clearing like a predator, its engine humming low like a growl. It parked right next to my car. For a minute, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened with a rusty screech. A figure stepped out. Tall. Broad shoulders. Wearing a coat too thick for summer. I couldn't see his face, shadowed by a hood or maybe a hat. He didn't walk toward me. He stood by my car. Watching. Then the passenger door opened. And out stepped him. He hadn't aged. Not really. Same leathery skin. Same tangled beard. Same empty stare. But the smile, God, that smile was worse. It was wider now. Wrong. Like his face had been carved by something that didn't understand human emotion. And this time, he wasn't alone. There was something inside the truck. In the bed. Covered by a tarp that moved, like it was breathing. They didn't wave. Didn't speak. The second man still by my car pulled something from his pocket. It glinted. I saw the edge of a fillet knife. That's when I realized they hadn't come to fish. I backed away slowly. rod still in hand. My tackle box lay by my feet. They didn't follow. But they were closer now. I heard the passenger mutter something. A low, wet whisper that didn't match the movement of his mouth. My head began to ache sharp, stabbing. Like static was building behind my eyes. Then the dock groaned. From beneath. And I felt something grab my ankle. Cold. Wet. Fingers. I screamed. Stumbled back. Pulled my leg up. Nothing was there. No mark. No hand. But I had felt it. And worse, they had smiled when it happened. I ran. Not to my car. I couldn't. They were blocking it. I bolted into the trees. Branches tore my arms. Roots caught my feet. Behind me, I heard the truck start. But not drive. Idle. Waiting. As if they knew I'd be back. I found a path. Or maybe made one. Tripped. Fell. Kept running. Until I reached a clearing I didn't recognize. And there, in the center, was a second lake. Smaller. Still. But this one had no reflection. When I looked into it, I didn't see the sky. I saw myself. But not moving. Not breathing. Dead. I don't know how long I stood there. But when I turned around, I was back at the dock. My tackle box. My rod. My car. The truck. Same spot. Same men. Still staring. Like I had never run. Like I had never left. I was trapped. In a loop. Or a trap. Or worse, a memory not mine. And then I heard them. Voices. Whispers bubbling up from beneath the water. Children. Women. Men. All crying. All begging. I stepped back toward the dock, compelled. My body moving without permission. And I saw them. Faces. Just beneath the surface. Eyes open. Mouths wide. Their hands reached toward me. And in the center. My own face. Mouth sewn shut. Skin bloated. Dead. I turned to run again. But this time, the passenger was standing on the dock. Closer than ever. And behind him, the water stood up. Not a wave. Not a splash. The water stood. Formless. Tall. Like a cloak of liquid, rising behind him like a shadow. It whispered. You came back. And I understood. This place remembered. Not just me. But all who had come before. Those two men, they weren't alive anymore. They were part of it. Gatekeepers. Shadows. Puppets of something older. Something that wanted me. Not to kill. But to join. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I never left. Sometimes I wake up soaked, even when I haven't been near water. Sometimes I see the man with the crooked smile at gas stations. Watching me through dirty windows. Sometimes I dream I'm still on that dock. And the water is rising. So here's what I want you to know. If you ever find yourself driving past the edge of town, and you see a lake that doesn't look quite right. One where the trees bend inward, and the air smells too still. Don't stop. Don't fish. And for God's sake, don't smile back. Because the water remembers. And it's always hungry. Some lakes give peace. Others just wait for you to come home. There's a particular kind of silence that only follows the end of something you thought would last forever. That was the silence that haunted me after Marla walked out of my apartment and my life. No dramatic fight. No cheating. Just those awful final words, I'm tired of trying. And then the door closed, gently, as if to make it hurt more. I spent the following week in a daze. Food had no taste. Time passed like syrup. I kept hearing echoes in the quiet, imagining her keys jangling, her laughter from the hallway. Until I couldn't take it anymore. That's when Cole called. "You need air," he said. "Nature. Just us, the lake, a tent, and no damn phones." I wanted to say no. I wasn't in the mood to be around people. But part of me, some hollow, shaking part, thought maybe being in the woods would reset something. I agreed. That was my first mistake. Black Pine Lake wasn't on any map. Cole found it years ago while exploring old forest roads on his dirt bike. He claimed it was beautiful, untouched. No campsites. No rangers. Just silence and still water. Almost too quiet, he had said once. Like the lake's watching you. He laughed when he said it. I didn't. We packed light, a two-man tent, sleeping bags, fishing gear, canned food, a cooler, whiskey. He drove. I stared out the window as pine trees turned into twisted shadows. The paved road disappeared after the third hour. What followed was 2 more hours of dirt and gravel trails snaking through thick woods that seemed to fold in on themselves. When we finally reached the clearing near dusk, something felt wrong. Not overt. Just off. The trees were tall, but crooked. Bent ever so slightly inward, as if leaning towards something in the center. The lake beyond them gleamed black. Not dark blue black. No ripples. No bugs. No sound. I stepped out of the truck and immediately felt it in my chest. That weight. Like being watched, but from below. I didn't say anything. Cole smiled like a man free of all burdens. Perfect, right? I nodded. But inside, something whispered, "This is a place that doesn't want us here." We set up camp quickly. Cole handled the tent. I gathered firewood. As the fire crackled and the sun dipped below the jagged tree line, we shared whiskey and old memories. For a brief moment, it felt okay. Normal. But something gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. I couldn't hear birds. Not even the occasional rustle of a squirrel. Even the insects were absent. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was forced. Like the forest was holding its breath. We turned in around midnight. Cole snored softly beside me. I lay there, staring at the roof of the tent, until finally I drifted into uneasy sleep. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of breathing. Not Cole's. Heavy. Guttural. Wet. Coming from just outside the tent wall. And then, a yelp. Short. Sharp. Not quite human. Not quite animal. It was followed by a string of sounds: yelping, gagging, coughing. Then, laughing. But the laughter was wrong. It wasn't laughter from joy. It was forced. Like someone imitating laughter without understanding why it was funny. Cole sat up beside me. "You hearing that?" he whispered. "Yeah." We both froze. Another yelp. Closer. Then footsteps. 2 feet. No dragging. No sprinting. Just pacing. Circling. Cole reached for his flashlight. I grabbed the small camping hatchet I always kept by the flap. The tent's shadow moved. Something passed by, tall, hunched, slow. Cole unzipped the flap just an inch and flicked the light on. What we saw made my blood turn to ice. Standing in the clearing was a man. Or what used to be one. He was naked, covered in dirt, his skin cracked like dry clay. His hair was tangled, matted with leaves. His mouth hung open in a permanent scream. And he yelped. Just like a coyote. Over and over. He stood facing our tent, hands trembling at his sides, fingers twitching like they wanted to curl into claws. Cole whispered, "What the actual hell?" I was frozen. My mouth dry. Then the man dropped to all fours. And charged. Straight at us. Cole screamed. I slammed the flap shut. The tent shook. His body slammed into the side with the force of a deer. We scrambled. I swung the hatchet wildly through the canvas. Nothing. Then, silence. Total. Complete. Utter. We waited for a full minute. Then Cole whispered, "He's gone." I didn't answer. We unzipped the flap slowly. The clearing was empty. But something had changed. The firewood was scattered. And in the dirt near our tent, someone had drawn a spiral. Perfect. Clean. Too precise for a madman. At the center of the spiral sat a single tooth. Human. Yellowed. Root intact. We didn't sleep. We sat back to back, knives in hand, whispering plans. But we didn't leave. Why? I couldn't tell you. Fear makes you stupid. Dawn came gray and fog choked. We packed fast. Cole's hands were shaking. Mine were numb. Then we heard it. The scream. This time it came from the trees behind us. Then another from the other side. More joined. A chorus of human voices pretending to be animals. Coyotes. Owls. Even laughter. But no footsteps. No bodies. Just sounds. Coming from all directions. And then the worst part. They began to mimic us. Cole's voice. My voice. Calling out, "Help. Over here. Please don't leave me." I snapped. We threw everything in the truck. Cole peeled out so hard we nearly clipped a tree. The voices screamed behind us, louder and louder. Then, just as the tires hit gravel. Silence. Not a single sound. We didn't speak until we were 30 miles away. That was 3 months ago. Cole moved to a different state. Doesn't answer my calls. Me. I keep seeing spirals. In steam on mirrors. In the frost on my windshield. And sometimes, I hear a yelp at 3 a.m. Not from outside. From under the floorboards. If you've ever thought about camping where no one can hear you scream, don't. If someone tells you about a lake that's too quiet, don't go. If you hear a voice in the woods that sounds like your own, don't answer. Because some places aren't haunted. They're alive. And they're hunting. Grief led me to the forest. But what waited there was not grief. It was hunger.